Reading the ancient visions in the book of Ezekiel alongside today's headlines can feel unsettling, as if something written thousands of years ago is casting a long shadow over modern politics. In Ezekiel 38 and 39 there is that mysterious warning about Gog from the land of Magog, a powerful leader from the far north who gathers a coalition of nations for a final great conflict. For centuries, interpreters have tried to match those ancient names with real countries. Almost every generation has wondered if it might be watching the prophecy unfold in real time. Before we speculate further, remember to press the like button. Feel free to participate in the comments. Lately, some commentators have begun looking at South Africa through that lens. The country's growing closeness to partners in BRICS, especially Russia and Iran, has drawn attention from prophecy watchers. Joint military exercises with Russia, expanding trade links, and diplomatic support in global forums are seen by some as signs that Pretoria is slowly pivoting away from traditional Western alignment and toward an Eastern bloc. Because Ezekiel mentions Persia widely associated with modern Iran, any connection with Tehran starts to look significant to those searching for modern parallels. The biblical passage, however, is far from straightforward. Ezekiel lists regions known in his own time, Persia, Kush, Put, Gomer, and others, and scholars still debate their exact modern equivalents. Some link Kush to territory south of Egypt, which brings parts of Africa symbolically into the discussion, but not specifically the modern South African state. The prophecy uses the geography of the ancient world, not a coded map of present-day borders, which makes direct identification difficult and uncertain. From a political standpoint, the situation appears more practical than prophetic. Pretoria frames its BRICS involvement as a strategy for economic survival, diversified trade, and independence in a shifting global order. Supporters argue that the country is adapting to a multipolar world rather than choosing sides. Critics, on the other hand, point to domestic instability, persistent power shortages, infrastructure decline, governance failures, and economic strain as evidence of a nation seeking powerful allies wherever they can be found, including in Moscow and Tehran. This is where the prophetic interpretation becomes intriguing. In Ezekiel's account, the nations that join Gog are not always portrayed as purely driven by ideology. Some appear motivated by opportunity, security concerns, or the lure of resources. That pattern feels familiar in modern geopolitics, where alliances are often shaped by energy needs, trade routes, military security, and influence rather than shared values. Countries may believe they are acting pragmatically, unaware of how their choices fit into a much larger narrative. The deeper question, then, may not be whether South Africa is literally aligning with Gog and Magog, but whether the global atmosphere resembles the tense environment Ezekiel described. Large power blocks are forming, smaller nations are navigating between them, and long-standing alliances are shifting. There is a growing sense of unpredictability, as if the world order that dominated the late 20th century is slowly giving way to something less stable and less certain. South Africa's position within that changing landscape is especially complex. Historically connected to Western economies yet politically aligned with many global South causes, the country often appears to move in multiple directions at once. This balancing act can make its foreign policy seem ambiguous, even contradictory. To those inclined toward prophetic interpretations, that ambiguity itself can appear meaningful. Ultimately, Ezekiel's vision may be less about identifying specific modern nations and more about revealing recurring patterns in human history. Nations act out of fear, ambition, survival, and self-interest. Leaders form alliances that appear logical at the time. Ordinary citizens continue with daily life while geopolitical forces quietly reshape the world around them. Only later does it become clear that a turning point has been reached. That enduring relevance is what gives these ancient chapters their unsettling power. They describe a time when the world feels anxious and on edge, when trust between nations weakens and alliances harden. Whether or not South Africa fits anywhere in that picture, the atmosphere of uncertainty they evoke feels strikingly familiar. Perhaps that is why the prophecy continues to fascinate. It does not provide a clear timetable or a list of modern country names. Instead, it creates the impression of history moving toward a decisive moment, slowly and almost silently, like distant thunder rolling across the horizon long before the storm itself appears. Remember to press like and subscribe. We appreciate the support.